we're now getting back to situation monitoring. Day 30 of the Epstein's Fury operation. Last night's events is, the situation monitor is obviously on Sunday night. Pay close attention to what Trump is saying in order to manipulate the markets was exceptional. It was hilarious. Donald Trump did the exact same thing that he has done, where on the one hand, he was like, Hormuz is open. A lie. Took ownership over Pakistan's fleet pushing through and their tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz. He said, they're doing this for us. Traders are gloating that Iran's current speaker called Trump's market pumping to a T. It fucking worked. Yeah. Galibaf said, heads up, pre-market so-called news or truth is often just a setup for profit taking. Basically, it's a reverse indicator. Do the opposite. If they pump it, short it. If they dump it, go long. See something tomorrow, you know the drill. Right after the Quantola came out with this take, that's precisely what took place. Traders are now gloating that Iran's current speaker called Trump's market pumping to a T. Fucking amazing. Yeah, markets, if they pump it, short it. Iranian parliament speaker calls the move as markets drop after open. Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf wrote hours before the open that pre-market news or truth, a reference to Trump's Truth Social post, is often just a setup for profit taking, basically a reverse indicator, adding, they pump it, short it. Markets initially rose after Trump's early post threatening Iran's energy sector, but the S&P 500 slid more than 70 points from its opening highs by midday, aligning with Ghalibaf's call. Trump later told the New York Post the U.S. will soon know whether Ghalibaf is someone Washington can work with. We're going to find out. I'll let you know about that in a week. It's so funny. Yeah, Trump's jawbone is broken, says Rory Johnston. Trump literally claimed 20 large oil tankers to transit Strait of Hormuz under U.S. escort starting tomorrow morning. Yeah, the 20 tankers were Pakistani tankers, not American flag tankers. Okay? Iran keeps cutting deals with other countries, non-aligned countries that are, they're doing bilateral commitments with countries in the region. And Donald Trump keeps fucking leading into it like Iran is doing it for him and him personally. It is hilarious. They're not, but it's obvious why Trump would say this. Iran already approved this deal with Pakistan yesterday as a part of their move towards working with non-hostile countries in Hormuz. They're still going to have to take the Iraq route like everyone else. There won't be any American ships there. Trump literally claimed that it was American naval assets that would be passing these, that would be accompanying the ships. It's bullshit. They are not U.S. escorts at all. They are Iranian escorts. Then Trump threatened to blow up all of Iran's power plants, oil wells, Karg Island, and desalination plants if the Strait of Hormuz isn't opened immediately. It's fucking unbelievable. Finally, traders are saying, okay, well, we know you're lying. Update. Iran's reverse indicator trading advice continues to play out in real time. At 4:12 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Iran Speaker of the Parliament said pre-market news is a reverse indicator. By 10 p.m. Eastern last night, S&P 500 futures had fallen nearly 1% on mounting war concerns. By 12 a.m. Eastern, 2 hours later, S&P 500 futures had reversed all losses and turned green. Then at 7:25 a.m. Eastern today, President Trump posted that great progress being made on peace talks, sending the S&P 500 plus 100 points off its low. Now, 3 p.m. Eastern, just 7 hours later, the S&P 500 has turned red and is down 100 points from its high, once again reversing price action. That's nearly a $2 trillion swing in S&P 500 market cap in less than 24 hours. Never truly a dull moment in this market. Trump shares a 1987 clip in which he discusses the need to take control over Iranian oil.
Because I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we take their oil?
You go in. You're
how
have
do
a
we
war,
go
Robert.
in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me. Yeah? You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
Well, there you have it, dude. Rape is president, thinks he can rape everybody, you know? Yeah, grab him by the oil, grab him by the pussy, same mentality. Yeah, don't siege Leningrad, just take it. Okay, well, what happens when you can't? Oh, yeah, the stripper has single-handedly caused an OPSEC crisis and panic amongst ex-military careers. OSINT strippers, hold the line. Double your army brass seduction efforts. America decides, who do you trust more when it comes to whether the troops are getting deployed? OSINT strippers or manifesto publishing access journos? Strippers are basically like the Pentagon pizza indicator, the Pentagon pizza index for troop deployment. Another index that you can pay attention to is Facebook Marketplace. If you see a bunch of troops all of a sudden on Facebook Marketplace selling all of their fucking, all of their materials, doing a full house sale, just know that they're being deployed. And both of these things are happening. Yeah, they're already getting combat patches. They're selling their trucks. They're selling their tools. They're selling their big fucking TVs and shit all over Facebook Marketplace.
Okay, so I work at a strip club next to like several military bases, and something I have noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money, and they're just like, it's sad, like they're like kind of depressed, and they're like just coming in like, oh yeah, we're gonna have fun, like we're getting, what is it called, deployed, like we're getting deployed next week, or like this is happening. I don't know, I don't want to spread misinformation or anything, but it's just like they're.
By the way, strippers are better than the entirety of the OSINT community. I'm sorry. I mean, look, even the fact that she's like worried about spreading misinformation, I ain't never seen a fucking OSINT account demonstrate that level of restraint ever in my entire damn life.
A lot of them are really kind, and to see these like young guys that look like my pinky toe, like they're like fetuses coming in and then dancing with them and then being like bye, and then it's actually like making me emotional. Like it's fucked up.
Turns out the stripper does care about you. That's funny. Yeah, true. Anyway, here you have an OSINT account. One of the OSINT guys, I forget his name, but he's like a big Ukraine guy. Also complaining about military ruining OPSEC. Let's take a look.
So this is going to be more of a public service announcement video than anything else. I want you to take a look at this picture right here above me. So it says, get ready with me as a stripper in Central City, Colorado. So this video was posted on the 12th of October of 2025, which means about 5 months ago. So it's safe to assume she probably still lives in the same location in that city. She posted another video very recently that's been going viral all over the internet. I want you to listen to it.
Okay, so I work at a strip club next to like several military bases, and something I have noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money, and they're just like, it's sad, like they're like kind of depressed, and they're like just coming in like, oh yeah, we're gonna have fun, like we're getting, what is it called, deployed, like we're getting deployed next week, or like this is happening. I don't know. I don't want to spread misinformation or anything, but it's just like a lot of them are really kind, and to see these like young guys that look like my pinky toe, like they're like fetuses coming in and then dancing with them and then being like bye, and then it's actually like making me emotional.
Troops are going to go out to adult entertainment clubs. That's just the facts. You're not going to change that. Pretend like that's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. An adult entertainer is not going to get the same training that you get. She doesn't get operational security briefings. She doesn't do operational security annual training every year. She doesn't know that like she shouldn't post videos about her location, troop movements, and things like that on the internet. She doesn't know that stuff. She's not trained in that, and she shouldn't be expected to know not to do that. You got to remind your folks like, hey, don't talk to your barber about when you're deploying. Don't talk to your adult entertainer, about deploying or when you're leaving or what you're doing or like dates and times and locations and stuff like that, because a lot of the time they don't know any better, and they're going to post a TikTok video about it. And it took me all of 5 seconds to look up where she was from, and then it's easy for me to infer what bases she's talking about. And then if you're a foreign actor and you're interested in finding out troop movements from the United States, you can just dig a little deeper and like use some open source intelligence to find out where these people are coming from, where they're leaving to, and when they're leaving, and all that stuff. And that's a problem, right? At the individual level, you can stop this from happening by not communicating to your adult entertainer, very nice, very kind adult entertainer lady, or your barber or your server at a restaurant. Obviously, you can tell your parents and your family, don't tell anybody about this stuff, because you can talk to them, and I would expect people are going to talk to their family. Just kind of a public service announcement. Thought it was important to mention, because people are going to do what they're going to do. You just have to, you got to be a realist.
In France, we just use Strava to follow our troops. Yeah. Well, Strava has been has outed like secret American military installations in the past. So like they added that in the OPSEC because you would have like troops with their Strava armbands like running around secret bases, like secret military installations, and it actually exposed a bunch of locations. So the American military stopped it. Apparently, the French military, on the other hand, did not get that memo because we found out that there was a French aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, making its way towards the Iranian coastline because there's this one French soldier in the middle of the sea just looping around. Like moving and looping around on the fucking Strava armband, tracking their workouts is pretty hilarious. The news figured out where my unit deployed to because a guy used his credit card at the Jamba Juice on base and his wife told the news. Yeah. French sailor reveals position of aircraft carrier with his fitness app. Run track app Strava shows Charles de Gaulle as he steams across the Mediterranean. It's fucking hilarious, dude. Bro's getting his steps in. Yeah, I mean, obviously there was that Bellingcat article where U.S. soldiers leaked nuclear site duress words using a note cards app too. That was another famous case. This one I just find very funny because you can see like the little loops. God forbid a guy go for a swim. Yeah, exactly. Someone needs to create a People's Bureau of OSINT analysts who track the pizza meter, stripper index, and the gay bar gauge to tabulate the data in real time. Yeah. Isn't War Thunder part of OSINT because military keeps leaking military capabilities on Discord arguments? Yes. War Thunder is like something that the American military and security clearances has to pay attention to because so many War Thunder enjoyers have unironically leaked classified information about military capabilities in order to win arguments on like Discord servers, War Thunder Discord servers, or War Thunder forums in general. Yeah, War Thunder and World of Tanks are the two most autistic fucking fandoms. People who literally, it's like the truck driver who is a commercial truck driver who then does the truck driving simulator at night. These guys can't get enough of like playing with these fucking tools, even if they literally work on them in real time, in real life. They basically are like, that's what happens when you have like people who are genuine fans and are genuine real life autists who make it their whole lives and will get into arguments on the internet and will own people by leaking classified information. Yeah, you say one wrong thing about some vehicle and other people reply with classified schematics. Also, last night, Financial Times had an interview with everyone's favorite president, President Donald Trump, where he told the Financial Times a couple incredible quotes. One, he wants to seize Iran's oil. To be honest with you, my favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran. Specifically considering taking Karg Island, Iran's main oil export hub. Compares it to Venezuela, saying the U.S. could control oil there indefinitely. Trump claims Iran has no real defense there. I don't think they have any defense. We could take it very easily. Acknowledges it would require occupation. It would also mean we had to be there for a while. Trump claims scale of bombing. We've bombed 13,000 targets. We've got about 3,000 targets left. Claims regime change has effectively already happened. Describes a new leadership as a totally different group of people. Very professional. I genuinely think we're not taking Karg Island, by the way. The more he says Karg Island by name, the more I believe that we're not taking Karg Island. Rubio's announcement today was insane. On Good Morning America, Secretary Rubio says, here are the clear objectives of the operation. You should write them down. Let's take a look.
Okay, and that's what this is. It's about very specific objectives. The president laid them out on the first night of the operation. I'll repeat them to you now because I hear a lot of talk about we don't know what the clear objectives are. Here they are. You should write them down. Number one, the destruction of their Air Force. Number two, the destruction of their Navy. Number three, the severe diminishing of their missile launching capability. And number four, the destruction of their factories so they can't make more missiles and more drones to threaten us in the future. All of this so that they can never hide behind it to acquire a nuclear weapon. That was our objective from the beginning. That remains our objective now. We are on pace and, in fact, ahead of schedule in some of those things, and we are going to achieve those things in a number of weeks, not in a number of months.
What happened? I thought we were liberating the Iranian people. Oh, well, I guess we totally dropped that one. Wait, I thought it was about nuclear capability. The Iranian people rising up and opening the Strait of Hormuz. The more this admin clarifies objectives, the less clear this insane war becomes. It turns out, you know what the real secret is? It's none of those things. It's none of those things at all. It's just we leaned into Israeli intelligence, Israeli assessments, and they played Donald Trump like a fucking fiddle, where they just straight up were like, you'll go in, we'll do regime change. It'll be just like Venezuela, in and out, 4 days max, 4 days of bombing max. And that's obviously not what's happened, because we're 30 days in. We're 30 days in with no end in sight, and things are getting worse and worse. They've been able to at least manipulate the markets a little bit to not show exactly how devastating this has been for the energy markets. Israel's goals were always entirely different than the administration's goals. Israel's goals were always about complete destabilization, complete destruction of Iran and Iranian existence in its entirety. They don't give a fuck about regime change, obviously. And here we are. And meanwhile, this has been such a devastating sequence of defeats for America and Israel that Iran has a stronger grip over the Strait of Hormuz now than ever before. They not only effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, but they also control all the oil tankers that go through, and they're actually forcing the non-hostile countries to pay a toll in Chinese yuan. Iran going in for the long haul and imposing sovereignty in the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, they are also passing a bill now. If this becomes law inside of Iran, they will impose a toll system in rials, ban passage of U.S. and Israeli vessels through the strait, assert Iran's sovereignty over the strategic waterway, ban any country that imposes unilateral sanctions against Iran. Oman is slated to help shape the legal framework, Forrest said. And you need to understand something. This is de-dollarization, and it's already happened. It accelerated after Russia invaded Ukraine, because America's reaction to Russia invading Ukraine was to basically weaponize the SWIFT system, forcing Russia, a major oil provider, to move away from the petrodollar. Because Russia was like, okay, well, if you're going to sanction every dollar that we make off of our petroleum sales, our oil and gas sales, then we're not going to use that anymore. And ever since then, if you look at the actual data, the trade in general, like global trade, since then has actually fallen off of a fucking cliff. We did that. We forced the hand of all of our foreign adversaries by, one, sanctioning every fucking country that is in the periphery. And on top of that, offering tight controls over whatever they can trade and can't trade. And the US dollar share of global foreign currency reserves have fallen to its lowest level in this century. In 2000, at its highest peak, was at like around 65%, 60% or so. Now it's at fucking 40%. See, also, Europe is getting rid of Visa and Mastercard as a result of seeing the U.S. shut off access to other states. Europe is breaking up with Visa and Mastercard, and it's a $24 trillion problem. This is huge as well, because Visa and Mastercard are, at the end of the day, American companies. And because they're American companies, one of the things that Visa and Mastercard has been able to do effectively, and this is an unbelievable thing. Visa and MasterCard, just like PayPal and Venmo, if you recall, I've described this to you before. If you're a European national, if you're like a person in Switzerland and you send a Venmo to your friend in Italy and you put the word Cuba in it, your account gets shut down. That's insane, right? Neither of these countries have a negative relationship with the state of Cuba at all. And yet, because these are American companies, they can do that. This is perhaps best demonstrated with Yanis Varoufakis in techno-feudalism. America basically has exported all of their tech products to the rest of the world and therefore have tremendous control over what people do in their own countries. This is a way to deny them sovereignty. Another incredible problem for Europe in its efforts to regain sovereignty, of course, is on Visa and MasterCard. One of the things that Visa and MasterCard did in coordination with the American State Department, in coordination with the American government and the Treasury, was that they applied tremendous sanctions to ICC prosecutors and ICC judges. This was unfucking believable. The French International Criminal Court judge, Nicolas Guillot, was sanctioned by President Trump in August because of the court's warrant for Netanyahu, says he has been cut off from basic financial and digital services. I discovered that almost all payment methods in France today are American, Guillot said. The only cards we have in France are Visa and Mastercard. He can no longer use Amazon, Airbnb, Booking, or Expedia, and some UPS deliveries to his home have also been blocked. French officials say efforts to lift the sanctions have seen no U.S. response. If judges are afraid to judge, then we no longer have democracy, Guillot told France televisions. When America targets you because they want to defend Israel, they can literally destroy the International Criminal Court. You can't participate in fucking normal civilized society. It's unfucking believable. This is important. This kind of pressure is very important. Why is it very important? Because if Europe says no more Visa, no more MasterCard, that's a fucking $1 trillion market for Visa and MasterCard. Visa and MasterCard now have two options. Either they abide by the sovereignty of the countries and their markets that they choose to be in, or they lose $24 trillion in revenue, or $24 trillion worth of revenue that they can get transaction fees off of. There's a German journalist whose bank account and wife's been sanctioned for writing about, yes, Hüseyin Doğru. He's Turkish German. He runs the website Red, and that's a separate case. That's the European Union behaving in this insane manner. They do that all the same. They do a very similar thing to their own people. This is preposterous, says Yanis Varoufakis. A German journalist citizen has been depersoned by the European Commission for daring to write on the genocide, branding him a Russian asset. Having denied him the means of survival in his own country, they have now done the same to his wife. Putin is laughing his head off as the liberal democratic West is descending fast into the pits of fascistic authoritarianism. Hüseyin Doğru is a journalist, and he's done, he's conducted award-winning documentaries, produced some. He's the founder of RedStreamNet. RedStreamNet and Hüseyin Doğru has been sanctioned by the European Union Commission. Now he can't leave the country. He's literally banned from leaving Germany. But he is stuck in Germany, and he can't use any payment processors. He can't use anything at all. He can't make any money. The state gives him a modest stipend, like marginal, inconsequential, not enough for his children, not enough for his family. And on top of that, they've added these ridiculous sanctions to his wife and his family as well. That's what the European government is doing. That's what the European Union is doing to this guy. Unbelievable nonsense. Not only that, it's quite literally illegal for any European Union citizen to give him money as well. They want him to fucking die, basically. All in the name of Israel. If you give him money or food, you are violating European Union laws. He describes it as being economically banned from most of the planet, including his own country, France, and where he works, the Netherlands. Le Monde is a long article this is Nicolas Guillot. So America's doing this to Nicolas Guillot at the behest of Israel, and Germany and the European Union is doing it to their own citizens at the behest of the European Union, again, at the behest of Israel. So, directed by the European Union at the behest of Israel. So, it's unfucking believable that the EU is doing it to their own citizens, while simultaneously America is doing it to, European Union member states and people as high profile as like French nationals who happen to sit as a judge on the International Criminal Court. Guillot's daily existence has been transformed into a Kafkaesque nightmare. He cannot open or maintain accounts with Google, Amazon, Apple, or any U.S. company, make hotel reservations. Expedia canceled his booking in France hours after he made it. Conduct online commerce. He can't know if the packaging is American. Use any major credit card. Visa, MasterCard, Amex are all American. Access normal banking services, even with non-American banks, as banks worldwide close sanctions accounts. Conduct virtually any financial transaction. This is the French guy again, the French judge on the ICC. That's the real shocking aspect of this. Americans are punishing a European citizen for doing his job in Europe, applying laws Europe officially supports at an institution based in Europe that Europe helped create and fund. They're literally slowly killing him. And keep in mind, there's nothing he can do about it. He can't hire a lawyer because there's no money. And even if you could get a lawyer, he's not charged with any crime. So there isn't even anything a lawyer could go to court on. Yeah. And Europe is not only doing essentially nothing to protect them, they're actively enforcing America's sanctions against their own citizen. European banks are closing his accounts. European companies are refusing him service. This is literally the same exact thing that America has done to every single Cuban and just Cuba in general. That's the level of torturous control that America has around the globe, which is precisely the reason why when people go, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is like, you claim that there's a sanctions process here. Like America doesn't have control over everything. No, it does. This is what it means to be a hegemonic superpower. If you want to defend Israel and you want to go to these depths, these lengths to defend Israel, you can do it. Hopefully this will cause European leadership to reconsider their unholy allegiance that denies them of their own sovereignty and their own dignity, and actually causes some financial harm to Visa and MasterCard. Also, getting back to situation monitoring, Saturday afternoon, Trump urged everyone to watch Mark Levin, who has demanded that I get kicked out of the country, actually, deported. That's what he said. Let's take a look.
Two important questions as we enter another week of this war. One, where is the president getting his information? What are his sources? A recent NBC report indicated that he watches a highlight reel of strikes inside Iran, showcasing U.S. military successes. That raises concerns about whether he's being told the full story about the war day by day. So where is he getting his information, and who is he talking to in the press or in the media to get his message out? For example, earlier today, Trump had a phone interview with a reporter from an Israeli TV network who relayed his messaging about the Iranians begging to negotiate. But check this out from yesterday. I thought this was a really interesting, revealing True Social post. Trump saying, hey, everybody, tune in to Mark Levin's show on Fox. He's going to have an interview with the, quote, brilliant Mark Thiessen tonight at 8 p.m. So here you have Trump yesterday acting like a Fox News programmer, urging everybody to tune in to Fox, specifically because they'll discuss the importance of hitting Iran hard. Now, that strongly suggests to me that the president had talked to Levin or the guest ahead of time and knew what was coming up. So take a look. Here was Mark Levin, who is an Iran war hawk, urging the president to send in some forces.
Troops on the ground. He said no troops on the ground. I don't remember that in any campaign speech either. But why would we need troops on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we wouldn't need 300,000 of them. It's this uranium, too. We've got to get the uranium.
Let's listen to the whole thing. There's a minute. It's a minute and 19 seconds long. After Donald Trump promoted this Fox News special, if you want to understand like where he's going from here on out, Mark Levin is making the case for him.
Troops on the ground. He said no troops on the ground. I don't remember that in any campaign speech either. But why would we need troops on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we wouldn't need 300,000 of them. It's this uranium, too. We've got to get the uranium. If it cannot be destroyed, if it cannot be altered, we got to get it. For the reason I just said. You can make dirty bombs, and over time you can still make sophisticated missiles. So you need to get to the uranium. That's why I'm reading in the paper, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne, we're talking about these various special forces and the various military services and so forth. He's not talking about sending regular army and infantry in by the hundreds of thousands. The men he's talking about, the units he's talking about, they are specialized. And you know what else? I remember from my days in the Reagan administration. Many of them are trained for a moment like this, to try and secure enriched uranium.
Yeah, they're not. Okay, this is an unbelievably complex, if not outright impossible mission to conduct. Troops flying over contested Iranian airspace to get to Isfahan is already impossible to begin with. But then also on top of that, you're talking about transporting a fuck ton of enriched uranium. How are you going to do that? How are you going to take packaged 1,000 pounds of uranium, even if it's like not even a certainty that the enriched uranium is in the Isfahan facility, because you don't even have the intelligence. That is a very sophisticated operation that is virtually impossible to conduct, even if America had a runway, established bases that were free of Iranian rocket fire, like a launching pad. To do that with no air superiority whatsoever, as you are signaling that you're going to do that a week ahead of time, it's unbelievably stupid. It's not going to happen. I just don't even think it's going to happen. I don't even think they can find the uranium. I know. How are they going to find the tunnel systems? Like, let's say, what are they going to do? Dig it out from the rubble? Like, there's no guarantee that this facility already still contains the enriched uranium. This is from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Analysis: Iran likely transferred highly enriched uranium to Isfahan before the June strikes. Satellite imagery shows that Iran could have transferred to Isfahan up to 540 kilograms, possibly all of its highly enriched uranium inventory before the June strikes last year. 10 days of enriched uranium enrichment to weapons grade, long enough. There's no guarantee that it's there. And on top of that, it's virtually an impossible mission. On top of that, once again, highly, highly difficult to, like, you need to, it's not just like fucking Navy SEALs that you can send on this operation. It's a trap. They're going to die there. But also, you have to have like specialists along for the journey, because a bunch of fucking Navy SEALs have no idea how to handle enriched uranium. A former CENTCOM commander talks about this. What boots on the ground in Iran could entail, according to a former CENTCOM commander. None of this makes sense. Yeah, once you're dropped there, you're on a timeline. You're setting yourself up for a fucking ambush. He later brought on Thiessen to paint Iran with the same brush as Al-Qaeda. Oh, Mark Thiessen, in the Mark Levin interview, Trump urged all his followers to watch, makes the case for troops on the ground in Iran. We have to get what Donald Trump correctly calls the nuclear dust.
Of the leadership, including bin Laden's son, escaped from Afghanistan to Iran, were given sanctuary by the Iranian regime, and they've been using it as a hub for terror around the world. And Al-Qaeda and Iran have teamed up for a series of terrorist attacks against us. People don't realize this, but we remember the bombings of the embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, which should have been our warning that 9/11 was coming. That was planned, and the terrorists were trained by Iran for doing that, because Al-Qaeda didn't know how to bring down buildings, so they turned to Iran in order to get the training to do that. So the idea that Iran, which is Shia, and Al-Qaeda, which is Sunni, would cooperate is not beyond measure. In fact, I mean, you know, Hamas is Sunni also. Iran.
Bro, comparing Al-Qaeda to Hamas is so funny. I'm sorry. Al-Qaeda, Daesh, and all these other Salafist or Wahhabist groups are antagonistic to Iran. They have, in some ways, been created to fight back against Iranian influence in the fucking region, and they are much more aligned with Western goals by way of Saudi Arabia than with Iranian goals in the region, okay? And no, it's not in Iran, it's Pakistan. That's where they fucking came from. That's precisely where bin Laden was too when we popped his ass. Next to like the Annapolis of Pakistan. That's where he was sheltering. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Works with Sunni terrorists around the world. And if we don't get that enriched uranium, and they want to get back at us for what we've done, the easiest way to do it would be to give it to Al-Qaeda and let them use it for a dirty bomb. So we have got to get what Donald Trump correctly calls the nuclear dust before this operation is done.
I mean, this is like not even a good argument, I'll be honest. It's just not a very good or a very convincing argument. Like, they're not even doing the don't let the smoking gun turn into a mushroom cloud shit. Clearly, prior admins that were also major war criminals, like specifically I'm thinking of the George W. Bush neocons, were at least more competent than this administration. So this actually does present a unique opportunity for anti-war people like ourselves to make a much more convincing argument that these guys don't know what the fuck's going on, okay? I think it was a lot more difficult back in the day with the competent neocons in charge that were doing full spectrum coverage on why we have to, invade Iraq, why we have to invade Afghanistan. They did a much better job of convincing the population, especially because it was like tied off to the 9/11 anxieties and 9/11 fears that had been successfully universalized for Americans that were living in like bumfuck towns, The competent neocons? No, I mean, they were. What's really funny about this kind of stuff, I'm seeing this, like where they go, oh, dude, let's not do nation building. Let's not do regime change. The idea that the neocons had any sort of real investment in like liberalizing Iraq is idiotic. That was marketing, you fucking idiot. They didn't actually care about bringing democracy to Iraq, you fucking moron. That's why it's so funny when they're like, no, we should just do not woke stuff because like nation building is woke. Yeah, really. Donald Rumsfeld, Mr. Woke. They're so stupid that they, I guess, genuinely believe that the neocons had any investment whatsoever in nation building and democratizing Iraq. No, they didn't, you fucking idiot. That was just marketing. It turns out the reason for that marketing and why that marketing existed was so that they could sell this idea to dumbfuck liberal Americans who ate that bait completely. Now that Trump is not even doing that, where he's doing away with all that shit because they consider it to be woke, and this is the anti-woke warrior ethos, many Americans are not even being convinced on why this is appropriate and why we should do it. It's fantastic.
And by the day, the Israelis are about to go even further. The country's prime minister says there's more to do by expanding their occupation of southern Lebanon. It's a message of strength that concedes a major weakness. Hezbollah has increased its attacks on the Israeli military.
In Lebanon, I have now instructed to further expand the existing security strip in order to finally thwart the threat of invasion.
But this is not the only place where Benjamin Netanyahu is waging war. Israeli and American planes have subjected the capital of Iran to waves of bombing. 701 strikes were recorded over 24 hours, according to one human rights group. The majority concentrated in and around Tehran. The Red Crescent Society says residential areas were hit overnight, and we see their personnel and search dogs moving through the rubble, searching for survivors and counting the dead. The Iranian Health Ministry says more than 1,900 people have died. On the target list, a well-known public university in Tehran. These images have been verified by Sky, with pictures of the damage posted by an academic the following day. Only last month, this campus was alive with students, she wrote. In response, Iran has threatened to hit US universities located in the Middle East. And Iran has been firing missiles into Israel at a steady pace. The majority intercepted by Israeli defenses, but not all. This impact in southern Israel filmed from neighboring Jordan. And residents in this community near Jerusalem were fortunate when a long-range missile narrowly missed their homes. 7 suffered light injuries. In Pakistan, talks about peace have begun with representatives of Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia in attendance. But there's little sign that American and Iranian officials are planning to attend. Instead, the US is bringing in more troops with the arrival of 2,500 Marines and ships equipped for amphibious assault.
Remember what I told you after day one, where they blew up a school, blew up a facility where people were children were playing volleyball, which I said was most likely a quote unquote accident that they didn't give a shit enough about. But clearly their targets were primarily Bossage and IRGC shit. When they realized that the Iranian people would not actually rise up, that they would start hitting civilian targets even more aggressively. At this point, they are doing that, right? I mean, Israel very quickly started doing that. They hit the oil refineries near Tehran and engaged in chemical warfare. When they recognized that the Iranian people were not actually going to fight back against their government in the way that the Israeli government claimed it would happen, even though the American intelligence said that most likely wasn't going to happen if you bombed Iran. They were going to start punishing every single person that they could, every single member of Iranian civil society, and they're precisely doing that. This trajectory is now unmistakable. As Iran maintains its ability to fire back, the U.S.-Israeli target set is widening from military sites to universities, factories, and residential areas. This shift is arguably driven by difficulty of decisively degrading Iran's military capabilities. What prevents Iran from doing the same? Iran will do the same. Iran is doing the same right now. If they have a facility that's hit, they hit back in the same way to Israel as well. And ironically enough, for those of us who have been paying close attention, monitoring the situation, you have noticed probably Israeli reports coming out about how effective Iran is at now consistently penetrating the Israeli security. the Israeli anti-defense systems. They now have a 54% strike rate. It's unbelievable. Yesterday, Iran lobbed 14 missiles at Israel. 7 of them, or I think, more than 7 of them went through. They hit targets. Danny Citrinowicz, the Atlanticist, who has to eat his words as he, this is like one of those things that guys like Danny were agitating for their entire careers. And now that it's unfolding in spectacular fashion and blowing up in their faces, he has to offer sober analysis and make it seem like he's not on board with this. Says the escalation is already here. Strikes on steel plants and universities on one side, and Iran's response, including damage to desalination facilities in Kuwait on the other, make clear that the current trajectory is unsustainable. Absent an end to the war, and given Israel's apparent intent to deepen its campaign against Iran, further escalation is only a matter of time. Maintaining the current status quo will be increasingly difficult, especially as the Houthis signaled their willingness to expand the conflict in response to intensified activity against Iran. And this is all before even considering the possibility of U.S. ground involvement. Surely Israel can't tank 50+% hit rates for long? Yeah, of course not. No one can. No country can tank it. No country can tank it, let alone Israel, who has famously been preserved as a consequence of unlimited American support. Israel has been preserved from receiving backlash. Israel has been spared due to billions of dollars of defenses that they get from the United States of America. Now that Israel is no longer spared and civilians are experiencing the tolls, when Israelis want to wrap up a military campaign, it's almost always theoretical, only at a bit like so-called non-Zionist Jews who continue to enable. No. This is unironically, this is a major pole shift. I don't think we should be undermining this major pole shift. It's huge. It went from 85% who thought we can just bunker up and withstand these strikes with minor casualties to now 29% to 60%. They are now seeing the consequences for the first time ever. I promise you, they went from 85%, 90% on some polls of Jewish Israelis specifically to now 60% of Jewish Israelis wanting to continue this war. That's a huge, huge, huge difference. And I say Jewish Israelis because it's a demographic designation, a demographic distinction that the fascist Israeli state applies. In Israel, it's Jewish and Arab, right? Even though there are Arab Jews, they are bracketed as Jewish. Arab just means non-Jews, including like Armenians are considered in the Arab category in their demographic polls, even though Armenians are not Arab. This is unique. This is why we have always said that not only is the Iron Dome support fungible, but on top of that, Iron Dome affords regular Israelis unlimited protection from the consequences of their violent militarism in the region, and therefore allows the Israeli government to continue agitating, continue destabilizing the entire fucking neighborhood, continue blowing up places, because they know full and well that there is no enemy, up until now, that can seriously punish and seriously penetrate the Israeli Iron Dome, the Arrow systems, significantly deteriorate their defense capabilities, and actually make the regular Israeli society suffer and experience retaliation. That's changing. That's changing. This is a huge change. This is part of the reason why I make no distinction between offensive and defensive weapons. Now, of course, we didn't stop, offering Israel defense. We greatly increased our defense, but Iran has destroyed their defenses. And here we are.
Join some 50,000 American personnel already in the region. The Pentagon reportedly planning for ground operations, although the decision to use them rests with President Trump. In a fiery verbal barrage, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Bagher Khalibaf, said they are awaiting the arrival of the Americans in order to set them on fire. The message later restated on national television. President Trump is unbalanced and deceitful. One moment he speaks of negotiations. Shortly afterwards, he's managing the war. It's clear that Iran retains the capability to retaliate, despite claims made both by the Israelis and the Americans that they've degraded and largely destroyed the regime's ability to fight.
Yep. What happened?
A large fire is now burning in an industrial zone in central Israel from another missile that has avoided this country's defensive shield. It's a reminder that a peaceful settlement, or even talks about peace, look decidedly elusive. John Sparks, Sky News in Jerusalem.
Now to the war in Iran, as President Trump considers sending ground troops into the country. More than 2,000 U.S. Marines have now arrived in the region. You can see some of them in these images released by the Pentagon. And over the weekend, President Trump told the Financial Times his preference would be to, quote, take the oil from Iran. Weijia Jiang is at the White House to break it down for us. Hey, Weijia.
Matt, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody. Clearly, President Trump is not ruling this out, even though from the very first strike on Iran, the White House has always said he wants to keep his options open. It was just 2 weeks ago that he said he was not putting troops anywhere. This morning, that's clearly not the case.
With Marines in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division amassing in the Middle East, President Trump on Air Force One wouldn't say if troops will head into Iran.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives.
Earlier, the president said to the Financial Times he may send troops to seize Iran's oil export hub, Karg Island, to take the oil. But he acknowledged that would also mean we had to be there for a while. And the White House did not deny a Washington Post report that the Department of Defense is preparing for weeks of ground operations, saying it's the job of the Pentagon to make preparations. It does not mean the president has made a decision. Democrats and a growing number of Republicans in Congress are voicing concerns.
We cannot have American troops on the ground in Iran. This is going to be such a risky operation.
We don't want troops on the ground. I think that's a line for a lot of people.
House Majority Leader Steve Scalise wouldn't say whether the president should consult Congress before making a decision.
There are no boots on the ground today, but we're having a lot of conversations about what could happen next.
Trump's top negotiator, Steve Witkoff, says a show of force is necessary to achieve peace.
Without pressure, you never get anybody to the table. And in this case, we're employing a lot of strength. We have a big fleet there, and yet we're prepared to solve it with a diplomatic solution.
Last night, President Trump said the U.S. is doing extremely well with negotiations, but added you never know with Iran because even when making a deal, quote, we always have to blow them up. Meanwhile, the war continues to take a toll on the U.S. economy. Gas prices remain high, about $1 more than just a month ago. Matt.
Thanks, Weijia. We appreciate it.
Trump, رئیس جمهور آمریکا بارها ایران را به عملیات زمینی و اشغال برخی از جزایر در خلیج فارس تهدید کرده است. ترامپ موضوعی را یک روز صبح به طبل تهدید می‌کوبد و عصر همان روز عقب نشینی می‌کند. زمانی از مذاکره دم می‌زند و ساعاتی پس از آن تصمیم به اداره جنگ می‌گیرد. رئیس جمهور آمریکا ثابت کرده تنها زبانی که می‌شناسد زبان زور است. در مقابل تهدیدهای اخیر ترامپ مبنی بر عملیات زمینی یا اشغال هر نقطه‌ای از سرزمین‌های ایران که البته آرزویی بیش نیست اعلام می‌داریم رزمندگان اسلام مدت هاست در انتظار چنین اقداماتی به سر میبرند تا ثابت نمایند که تجاوز و اشغال نتیجه‌ای جز اسارت تحقیرآمیز و قطعه شدن و مفقود شدن متجاوزان.
I've heard that the IRGC has issued commands to also capture American troops alive, which is when you might see the first ever Hannibal Doctrine implemented in the American military.
را در بر نخواهد داشت.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's talk about the president's comments overnight, talking about taking the oil on Karg Island. How would he do this? Why would he do this? Won't it take ground troops?
Well, first of all, it's important to remember the objectives of this operation from the very beginning. We are destroying Iran's Navy. We are destroying their ability to their missile launchers by a significant percentage. We're going to wipe out their defense industrial base, meaning their ability to make new missiles and new drones in the future, because it poses a great threat to the region. This Iran that you're seeing now, this is Iran at its weakest point. Imagine them 2 years from now if they had thousands of more missiles, thousands of more missile launchers and factories to make even more. That was an unacceptable risk. It needed to be addressed, and President Trump is addressing it. Now, they are making threats about controlling the Hormuz Straits in perpetuity, creating a tolling system and the like. That's not going to be allowed to happen. And the president has a number of options available to him if he so chooses to prevent that from happening. Obviously, I'm not going to discuss what those options are, and we're not going to discuss military tactics. The Department of War would be in charge of those things. I'd refer you to them, but obviously they're not going to discuss it with you either. But there is a way forward here to achieve our objectives. We are going to achieve our objectives in a matter of weeks, not months.
Well, but let's talk about taking the oil, because the president laid out that objective last night. And taking the oil will take ground troops, won't it?
Well, again, the Iranians are threatening that they're going to set up some permanent system in the Straits of Hormuz where they get to decide who goes through international waterways. That will never be allowed to happen. By the way, the rest of the world should take note of that. They have more at stake there than we do. We get very little of our energy in this country coming through the Straits of Hormuz. The rest of the world gets a lot more. That said, the president has several options at his disposal, and the Department of War is preparing optionality.
I think it's really funny that they keep repeatedly saying over and over again, yeah, I know we fucked up the Strait of Hormuz, but like it doesn't even impact us. It's like, yeah, dumbass, everybody else understands that. First of all, it doesn't impact, it still does have an impact because it has an impact on the global oil prices. So it does impact people at the pump, as it has been. But even outside of that, you're basically telling the rest of the world, yeah, we fucked up the Strait of Hormuz and we're not even suffering the consequences. How do you think that's going to read for a global hegemon? It's pure cope to think that like other countries are not aware that, yeah, American supply is not being disrupted in the same way that like, you know, Thailand is, in the same way that the Philippines are. But what you're failing to consider when you say shit like this is that you're telling all your vassals around China that you have developed through soft power initiatives, a long-standing security cooperation, that you don't give a fuck about them. And sure, most likely the leadership that were in line with these American security cooperative agreements were aware that you don't give a fuck about them. But now you're making it undeniable to the populations. What kind of resentment do you think that will create? This is why I kept repeatedly saying, in the absence of soft power, 800 military bases turn into 800 different military invasions. And no country has the capacity to fight 800 different wars all around the world at the same time. It turns out America doesn't even have the capacity to fight against Iran and protect its regional partners. We've found out the hard way. We're learning that lesson. Well, I guess these guys are just denying that lesson even exists, but at least like sober analysis requires you to come to terms with that lesson. Bro, holy shit, bro. L take, please Hasan, bro. Wait, it's the same guy. It's the Gangi guy. By the way, it's been 30 fucking days and this guy comes in every time. He still comes in and he's still like, nah, dog, the war effort's going so good. Contingency plans, Gangi. I wish I had confidence in anything. Like anything at all. I wish I could believe in anything as much as this guy believes in American military superiority at a time when America is like so clearly showing its fucking limitations. My job as an analyst, as a commentator, is to show you the reality. There is a reason why, you know, every single day that passes by, I have been further vindicated. Do you honestly believe in the U.S. isn't winning militarily in this current conflict right now? Bro, I want to know what kind of crack you're smoking. I need to know what you're, because this is a new kind of crack cocaine, I think. Okay, this is a totally new type of crack that I don't think other people have ever smoked before. The Strait of Hormuz is currently controlled by a country that we've been able to economically dominate for the last fucking 50 years. The country whose capabilities that we supposedly attrited is still taking pot shots, destroying American military hardware to the tune of like $600 million, like the AWACS plane that they just blew up in Saudi Arabia, in a faraway base in Saudi Arabia, mind you. They're still America's still incurring casualties in places like Kuwait as of yesterday. They're literally having they're having more success in striking Israeli targets Iran's capabilities have not diminished. That's just what America has lied, and that's just a lie that America has told, basically, the rest of the world, and so is Israel. And you're over here refusing to recognize the reality on the ground. The Strait of Hormuz is closed still. Iran is controlling it. They're applying a toll to any country that passes. And it's such a bad state of affairs that America, the American government, has to literally fucking lie and make it seem like they were the ones who got the assurance from Iran to allow Pakistani oil tankers to cross through. They lie and say American escorts will escort the Pakistani oil tankers. That's not even the case. It's actually Iranian, the Iranian Navy that's supposed to be destroyed. If we weren't winning, we wouldn't be controlling the skies and bombing Tehran daily. The Iraqi army performed against these motherfuckers in 1991 during the air campaign. Wait, what? If you controlled the skies, they wouldn't be fucking taking out MQ-9 Reaper drones with regular frequency and simultaneously had not been able to down a fucking F-35 and an F-18. By this guy's logic, we won Vietnam. Yeah, this is like the classic. My favorite type of like American war lover who says like, well, technically we actually won Vietnam and Afghanistan. We could have gone way harder if we wanted to. It was just wokeness that stopped us. This man is the perfect guy for Pete Hegseth, like a perfect dumbass. It's just he's leaning into hopes and dreams. I mean, look at this. Look. Iran carried out a deception in the skies over Dubai, costing the United Arab Emirates around $100 million. Iran allegedly launched missiles equipped with flare decoys, prompting air defenses in Dubai to fire hundreds of interceptor missiles unnecessarily. I don't know if this is like Chinese or whatever. I don't know if this is more evidence of Chinese technology at work. I don't know why Ryan is saying that, but Chatter is committed to the Hermann Goering doctrine that you can win wars with air power only. Clearly, it's an effective strategy. Yes. He's making a joke about fireworks. Oh. Anyway, we'll watch it in a second. Let's keep monitoring the situation.
For the president, for this and various other contingencies that might arise. That's what always needs to happen in situations like this. But what I want the American people and the people watching this broadcast to know is that fundamentally what this is about is the destruction of their Air Force, which has been largely achieved, the destruction of their Navy, which has been largely achieved, the destruction of their factories that they make all these weapons with, which is we're well on our way to achieving, and a substantial reduction in the number of missile launchers that they have so that they cannot continue to threaten their neighbors in the future. All of those objectives are being met on or ahead of schedule, and should be able to achieve in a matter of weeks.
As you're speaking, though, the president is expanding the objectives. Just a couple minutes ago, he put out a post on Truth Social saying that we're in discussions now with a new and more reasonable regime in Iran, but he also added that if those discussions don't yield fruit, the United States will blow up and completely obliterate all of their electric generating plants, all their oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants, which we have purposely not yet touched, is what he said. That's a great expansion of the objectives.
Well, I think the first point the president makes is he prefers diplomacy. As I said, those efforts are nascent. There is messages being relayed back and forth, some conversations going on, including through intermediaries, and he always prefers that. Look, if the Iranian regime had come forward at any point in the past and said, we're going to walk away from our nuclear ambitions, we're going to do nuclear energy the way every other country in the world, primarily, almost every other country in the world does it, and that is through a peaceful means. And
they did! Please, bare minimum, basic journalistic function here. Please. You will be a legend. I'm not assuming he's not going to do that, but goddamn if he doesn't do that, he is literally the worst. Oh my God.
Bring in the fuel and it's supervised and so forth. We're going to stop supporting terrorist groups across the region. Look at this region. Every single terrorist group in this region.
No, you have to stop him. No, you have to go, they did do that twice. And we engaged in perfidy twice. Please. Actually, as a matter of fact, not only did they do that twice, technically you could say that there was success. It was called the JCPOA. Barack Obama advanced it. Iran followed through on it. It was a multilateral commitment, including China and Russia. And Trump ruined it the first time around.
Region has a link to the Iranian regime. Every single one. The Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Shia militias that are attacking everyone out of Iraq. Every single one of these groups and all the destabilization in this region tracks directly back to the Iranian regime. Those things have to be addressed. And if Iran had been willing to address those in the past, we wouldn't be having this interview on this topic right now. Their refusal to do so and their continuing move towards one day acquiring a nuclear capability, these people are lunatics. They are insane. They are religious zealots who can
Nothing? You're just going to let him chirp?
never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon because they have an apocalyptic vision.
Bro, this is not journalism. You're no longer even a stenographer at that point. You're just an organ of propaganda. You're literally just like allowing him with zero pushback whatsoever. You're not even editorializing it in your own
the
way.
Future, and all of their neighbors know that, by the way, which is why all of their neighbors have been supportive of the efforts we're conducting.
You call them lunatics, but the president just had this post where he says we're in discussions with a new and more reasonable regime. Let me try to pin you down on that. Who is this new and more reasonable regime? Is the United States in?
That's your takeaway? You're not even going to address what he said. Unbelievable. Like, this is the type of, first of all, this is Good Morning America, it's ABC. It's not even fucking CBS. But like, I mean, you're doing a disservice to your audience. Like, you are straight up doing a disservice to your audience. You're doing a disservice to the profession in general. You can't let him fucking sling all that shit. Like, you're not gonna actually hold him to account. That would look really good for George, by the way. That's what's so crazy about it, because like, this is beneficial for George. George cutting Marco Rubio in that moment and saying, hey, I have to stop you there. You said these guys didn't want to deal with the United States of America and denuclearization. This is actually contradicted by the information presented by numerous mediators that were involved in the denuclearization talks last time around, including a British official, including the foreign minister of Oman, who wrote a piece and actually went on NBC's Sunday shows to basically say that Iran was abiding by maximalist denuclearization arguments that America was presenting. Rubio would say they're lying because terrorists lie. Hey, notice how I didn't bring up Iran here? I said British envoys, British mediators, Omani mediators. The reason why I brought that up is because there is a way to counter this narrative. This is another one of the things that's like been endlessly frustrating for me, is like the crowning accomplishment. Obama loves his legacy, right? He loves defending his legacy. That's why he brings up the ACA all the time. Obama's signature accomplishment in terms of foreign policy was both the Cuba deal and Iran, the JCPOA. He accomplished that, and that was actually a spectacular move in the right direction. And if I was in his shoes, I'd be fucking nonstop defending that shit. I'd be like, look how much Donald Trump has fucked things up. It doesn't make any sense.
Direct contact with them.
Well, I'm not going to disclose to you who those people are because it probably would get them in trouble with some other groups of people inside of Iran. Look, there's some fractures going on there internally. And at the end of the day, I think that if there are people in Iran who now, given everything that's happened, are willing to move in a different direction for their country, that would be great. Imagine in Iran that instead of spending their wealth, billions of dollars supporting terrorists or weapons, had spent that money helping the people of Iran, you'd have a much different country. So we are always hopeful that that would exist over there. It's unfortunate. The people of Iran are incredible people. The people who lead them, this clerical regime, that is the problem. And if there are new people now in charge who have a more reasonable vision of the future, that would be good news for us, for them, for the entire world. But we also have to be prepared for the possibility, maybe even the probability, that that is not the case.
Well, but the president said they are. Is that the case or is it not? I'm just trying to get some clarity on that.
Well, what I mean is, yeah, so you have people over there that are saying some of the right things privately. Obviously, they're not going to put it out in press releases, and what they say to you or put out there for the world doesn't necessarily reflect what they're saying in our conversations. But at the end of the day, we have to see if these people end up being the ones.
Oh, you got secrets. You see, it kind of seems like we're destroying the entire globe's energy production and its entire agricultural output. But a lot of people are secretly super on board. The fuck do you think someone in Thailand has to do with Iran? Why the fuck would anybody in Thailand or anybody in the Philippines be like, oh, thank God, dude. Thank God you literally destroyed our entire energy exports, our entire energy imports by blowing up Iran alongside Israel. We love that. Thank you, sir. Like, American exceptionalism has obviously served the American population for a long time because it was uncontested. Like, American military might was uncontested. Now that it's being contested, in spectacular display, these guys still keep running around with the same ass attitude, like the fuck you gonna do about it attitude. They designed a new world order. They said it's might is right. And now, thinking that, you know, no one else was gonna come in and say, all right, bet. If might is right, if might makes right, we got might too.
In charge, seeing if they're the ones that have the power to deliver. We're going to test it. We are hopeful that that's the case. There are clearly people there talking to us in ways that previous people in charge in Iran have not spoken to us in the past. Some of the things they're willing to do, some of the things they're saying they're willing to do. Obviously, they have to go do it. We're going to test that proposition very strongly because we always prefer to settle things through negotiation and diplomacy. But we also have to be prepared for the fact that that effort might fail, that we are dealing with a 47-year-old regime that still has a lot of people involved in it who aren't necessarily big fans of diplomacy or peace.
And if it fails, the war expands?
Dude, come on, George, you're literally directly related to a Palestinian. The fuck is wrong with you, man? There's one party that is not invested in diplomacy. It's the American government. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you letting him get away with this lie? Up until this moment, okay? Up until these last 30 days, Iran kept leaning into diplomacy over and over and over again. And what did it get in return for that? Bombs. It got bombed. What are we talking about? The idea that, like, Iran was not invested in diplomacy, but America is so fucking stupid. Who's he related to? George Stephanopoulos has like the, what is her name? It's like sister something. I forget. She's like a very famous Palestinian woman. Tucker Carlson has interviewed her before. Sister Agapia Stephanopoulos. Doesn't she live in Palestine or something? Or I think it's not even his sister. I think it's his relative by marriage or something. I don't know the full details, but like she lives in the West Bank. She's like a religious figure that lives in the West Bank. And Tucker Carlson has actually interviewed her quite a bit. Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. Oh no, she's Greek by blood. She lives in the West Bank, or used to live in the West Bank, and now she lives in New York.
What's that? I'm sorry?
If it fails, the war expands?
Well, the war is about this operation, okay, and that's what this is. It's about very specific objectives. The president laid them out on the first night of the operation. I'll repeat them to you now because I hear a lot of talk about we don't know what the clear objectives are. Here they are. You should write them down. Number one, the destruction of their Air Force. Number two, the destruction of their Navy. Number three, the severe diminishing of their missile.
Yeah, we watched this part where he just like starts flubbing.